Oh. Wow, man.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody. What's up, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Standing Out. What's up, everybody? I was trying to be coordinated and it didn't work out. I had 3 golf balls and one of them had our logo on it. And I was going to show the logo off. Look at that, everybody. It's pretty cool. And I dropped it. That's what you get. That's how it works around here. It's the amateur hour. We do our best. Welcome to Standing Out, everybody. I'm Trey Griggs, your host. This is a podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. And we are so excited that you're with us today. As we get started here, we have to give a shout out to ourselves, I guess. Check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com. We love helping companies with their sales and marketing efforts. Sometimes it's just good to have an outside set of eyes on what you're doing to help you fix those holes, to find the blind spots in what you're doing. So click on that little button on our website that says to schedule a call with yours truly. Tell us what's going on with your company and we'll help you out in that regard. We would love to work with you. Also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Sales-CRM, my good friend Josh Lyles over there. Listen, if you're a freight broker, not all CRMs are created equal, especially when most of them aren't built for freight brokerage in mind. But that's exactly what Sales-CRM is. It's a freight brokerage CRM specific piece of technology built for freight brokers by freight brokers. So be sure to visit them at sales-crm.com or go to betaconsultinggroup.com/standing-out. That is our podcast page. And on there, you can fill out a form to request a demo and check out what he's building over at Sales-CRM. We appreciate the support. And Josh is just a cool dude, so you're going to love that. Okay, a couple announcements before we get started. We've got to remind you guys, man, we are just weeks away from the next Broker Carrier Summit. I cannot wait for this. It's going to be down in Fort Worth, Texas, October 23 through 25 at the beautiful Worthington Renaissance Hotel. We've got free truck parking for owner-operators and small trucking companies that are bringing their truck to the show. So you can go through truckparkingclub.com and get free truck parking. We're so excited about that. We have the best golf tournament in the industry, the Post and Pray Classic, on Wednesday to kick everything off. So sign up for that. And it's a great opportunity for small and medium-sized truckload carriers and freight brokers to find each other in person and potentially do business together. Also talk about the issues that we're all experiencing as well. It's all about connection. It's all about conversation, less about presentation. So hopefully we'll see you there. BrokerCarrierSummit.com. Go ahead and get registered. Be sure to use the coupon code BETA, BETA, to save 10% off. And make sure you come up and introduce yourself at the event when you are there. And finally, we want to give a shout out to our partner over at Reads Across America Radio. If you're listening to us on Reads Across America right now, thank you so much for doing that. We're so excited to be a part of their Trucking Tuesday lineup every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you so much for that. And if you haven't yet, consider partnering with us with Reads Across America to sponsor a wreath, because what they do is every December, the second or third weekend of December, they are helping to lay over 4 million wreaths on tombstones of veteran soldiers all across the country, over 4,000 different cemeteries across the country. This is something you can do with your family, something you can do with your company. So definitely get involved. Go to wreathsacrossamerica.org today to either sponsor a wreath or to volunteer to actually go and place those wreaths on the tombstones. It's an incredible experience. Just to remember the sacrifice in the past and really teach the future generations about that sacrifice. All right, it is time to get our show started today. I'm excited because we're talking about something today that I know very little about, but my guest knows all about it. And so I'm excited to bring him on today. So please welcome to the show, my good friend, Andrew Wilkins. Here we go. We had a little production issue there. All considered. I don't know this band. Who is this, my friend? What is this?
Oh my gosh, this band is fantastic. The song is so good. It's you'll have to give the whole song a listen at some point. The way it builds is just fantastic. It's,
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It's worth checking out.
Yeah, I never know. All of our guests always get to pick their song, and so I was like, well, I want to just I don't know what people are going to bring on here. So I'm glad that I get to learn something new. I didn't know about that song. That's cool. Well, give everybody a little bit of introduction to who you are, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, first off, thanks for having me on, Trey. Yeah, really, really excited to be here. Yeah, my name's Andrew Wilkins. I am the founder and CEO of two businesses, both kind of in the service space. So one, Top SDRs. We pair sales reps with early stage startups, seed stage and Series A businesses. So a lot of recruiting there. And then fewertasks.com, which is an outsourcing business. So we place qualified virtual assistants who are based in the Philippines with companies here. So, yeah, prior to that, was working at in finance and a couple other startups, and yeah, found my way here. So that's
Nice.
yeah, that's the quick overview.
That's great. And I want to talk about SDRs today because, again, it's not something I know a ton about. I've always been an individual contributor myself on the sales side. I haven't been at companies that worked with a lot of SDRs. I haven't really experienced that model of having, the more of the business development type stuff in regards to that. So I'm excited to talk to you about that today. But before we get to that, I have a fun fact about you that I didn't know, and this one's a core to my heart. You were once stranded in in a Jeep with an open top among a pride of 18 lions.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that was 2 years ago, and that was
Man,
that was one of the craziest experiences I've had. Yeah, we were out there. We were in South Africa in Kruger National Park, and it was about the sun was starting to set. The lions were starting to get up. We went out there because it was when they were going to start eating, because normally they're lounging around all day. So we went out for kind of a later day cruise, and I just remember our guide. They turn all the vehicles off right when you're out there, and I remember our guide. He goes, he turns the key and he's like, "Hey, it's not working." And I thought he was joking. You think, right? He's just yanking your chain, making a joke. But sure enough, the car was dead, and we had to figure out how to get it. I mean, we were out there. There were no other cars in sight. It was just us. Thank God. And the radio was dead too, because the radio was tied into the car. So we had no way. We were probably 45 minutes away from the lodge we were staying in. These lions start getting up, and, I'm sure it felt more dramatic in the moment. But yeah, luckily another car came and we were able to jumpstart it. But even that wasn't easy, because the lions started playing with the cables that they were attaching, and you couldn't get out of the car because otherwise they'd come at you.
right.
So that was one of the craziest experiences of my life.
Yeah, because at nighttime, that's when they feast. I mean, that's when they hunt.
That's when they
do a lot of that.
So,
exactly. Yeah, they sit during the day. They kind of hang out. They fight. They play a little bit.
Yeah, they don't bother.
Yeah.
Day. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
So how long was it overnight? How long?
No. I mean, it all, it was probably, all of that was probably, we were probably stranded there for, an hour or so. And you're just kind of letting them, they're just wandering around. Not, they're curious about you. You're curious about them. And then we had this other car that came around and managed to, I mean, the guides, honestly, hats off to them, were able to maneuver around them and jumpstart it. And I have these crazy videos of the lions, just like a little, a house cat would play with a ball of yarn. They had these cords that we put on, that we were using to try to jumpstart,
playing with them,
slapping at them, pawing at them. And, oh my God! It didn't feel like watching a house cat in the moment.
The heart had to probably speed up just a little bit.
Oh my God!
Were you wearing a Whoop at this time? That actually been.
I should have been. Now I wear the Garmin. I wish I had that on me then. I know. I probably would have thought I was working out or something. So.
Yeah, it probably would be like, "Hey, are you doing a workout? Are you doing? No, not doing that."
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's awesome. So let's talk about Top SDR. So you guys specialize in pairing the best US-based SDRs with growing SaaS startups. Now, this is interesting because a lot of companies are moving towards like offshoring or nearshoring SDRs, and you're using US-based SDRs. And I'm fascinated by that because I have to share my experience. I used to work for a company that did outsourced, labor in Colombia, and we tried really hard to do sales for our customers, and we struggled. It was hard. It was a hard thing. Maybe it was me. I don't know, but we definitely struggled in that regard. And so I wasn't sure, necessarily about like the path that you guys are taking on that, but you're all US based and partnering. Talk a little bit about the model and how that works and why you went that direction.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because we definitely tried a lot of different things. I have a number of folks I've worked with who are based in Colombia who are fantastic, honestly. And I've had really good experiences there. But I can touch on that in a moment, but really our model today as it stands is we'll go to businesses that are again, seed stage Series A companies. And, the position that they're in is, hey, they've started to find product market fit. They've done outbound sales. They've been able to bring in a few customers from it. And they have, some semblance of a process in place that someone could come in and start to repeat, and build reliable quality pipeline. Right. And so these are so I would say companies that have probably 500K up to $5 million a year in revenue are sort of where we're targeting. And we'll go in and we'll pair them. We have a deep network of reps. The reps we work with, they're all experienced. So I'm not hiring kids right out of college. We're working with folks who are right on the precipice, honestly, of becoming account executives. So they probably have 8 months to a year and a half of experience. And either they, aren't getting promoted because of internal things, or they're just looking for, a new challenge to get more responsibility at a smaller company. And so a startup makes a lot of sense. So the model is we'll pair them with these businesses. Typically we could start them part-time. So they'll work 2 hours a day with the business to make sure it's a good fit. Or we'll just say, hey, go full-time right away, and they'll get hired out. So really it's, I think the part-time to full-time, we've had a lot of interest there and done a lot of work there where we'll pair someone 2 hours a day. And it just helps de-risk it on both sides, right? If you're a rep, I used to work at an 80,000 person investment bank. And then I went to a 16 person company. If, a move like that, there's a lot of risk associated with it. Right. And so, and similarly, if you're a startup that just, has seed funding or a Series A, you want to spend that money wisely. And so part-time to full-time helps de-risk the hire a lot. So that's the model that we use right now. Again, as I said, there's a lot of stuff we've done to get to that point, but that's how it stands at the moment. And that's really the one that we're confident in because, what I've learned, if nothing else, is that, there are a lot of pieces that go into an outbound motion, but the person is the thing that matters the most. You need to have someone who's committed to iterating and learning and, understands what it takes to build out, kind of, just take that motion to the next level, really.
Yeah, your sales reps are the tip of the sphere. When they're the first contact or the first human interaction that they usually have, it matters. It's definitely important. Yeah. Are you are they hiring these SDRs directly? You're just kind of the go-between to connect them, or are they when you're hiring? Like, how's that work?
When we go part-time, I facilitate all of that. So they hire our company and, we'll pair them. But when they hire them full-time, we get paid a recruitment fee like you would with any other recruiter.
Sure.
They're their employee.
Yeah. So it's got a little bit of the recruiting model and a little bit of kind of the outsource model built in together.
Correct.
To give a little flexibility for clients who are just getting into the game. And I know that you traditionally are going with larger companies that have the need and or smaller companies that have some funding and are looking to scale pretty quickly. That's kind of your bread and butter, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We used to work with businesses that were really, really early on, meaning, had not done any outbound before. And what I learned there is just my experience is the founders, in my opinion, need to do that work. I think they need to be the ones to hire a, 24, 25, 26-year-old to come in and build out the whole thing just isn't really, in my opinion, I don't think it's the most effective and best use of time or resources. I think, the founder has the product knowledge, they know the market, and they should start to figure out that motion and make sure there's success. And honestly, some of our best customers today are people who I turned away initially and said, hey, I don't think we're there yet. Right. Come in and show us the cold calls that worked, make sure they're, what's the ARR number? That we want to make sure that stuff's in place before we connect them with somebody, because, otherwise that person's just going to spend their time, trying to figure it out for themselves. And it's not the best use of anyone's time or resources.
Yeah, and a lot of founders aren't salespeople, and I think that they want to give it away too quickly. But they're the best person to sell it. They need to hold on to that for a long time. How do you what are some things that you might notice on a sales call that would say this founder is ready for this, or this company's ready for this, or this founder is not? What are some of those marks, those indicators that you look for?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you want to be able to say you're booking qualified demos with your ICP, right? So if you're making phone calls to people and you're getting real genuine interest, you're booking high quality, you're booking demos. And when I say high quality demos, I mean, someone, first off, the demo is going to happen, right? So that, you make a cold call to someone, they answer, they express interest. Not only that, they show up to the follow-up call, right, that you've booked on the calendar. That to me is really, that's number one. And then number two is, are those converting, right? Like, are those calls starting to turn into closed won deals? And, you want to see this happening. You want to see a trend, in my opinion, of it. So, that could be 250 calls, but if you do 200 calls and you say, hey, we got, we were able to get 20 conversations, and 5 of those turned into demos and 2 of those turned into deals, that's enough, right? That to me is okay. There's something there. I think what you don't want is, hey, like I made 20 calls. I had 1 conversation, and we booked a follow-up for me to reach out to them and next year Q2, right? Or something like that. It's just not quite enough. Like, you want to make sure that there's something that, again, your rep's going to come in, and you want to be able to say, hey, here's the example of what worked. They can iterate off of that and build off of that. But I always use the example of, if you could have the best athlete in the world, but if you have them show up to the field and you don't tell them the rules of the game they're playing, it doesn't matter how good of an athlete they are, they're not going to be able to go out and win, right? Because they don't know what the rules are. And so you got to figure those rules out, and then you can put the person in who knows, who knows their way around the phone a little bit better. That's
funny. I use a similar analogy, not so much for like the rules of engagement and understanding the game that they're playing, but just from the standpoint of, like, I'm a football guy, so I'm a Chiefs guy. Most people who watch this show know that I love the Kansas City Chiefs, especially now. And Patrick Mahomes is a very talented quarterback, but I often wonder, what would have happened to Patrick Mahomes if the New York Jets had drafted him in 2017, back when they had no system in place, poor coaching, not a very good front office leadership. And I don't know where they're at now. I don't really care. I'm not really paying attention to it, but I know in 2017 they were struggling. And there's several organizations like that. You put a talented person into a bad system and you often get bad results.
Absolutely.
Right? You put a talented person into a great system, you get 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. Like, it's incredible, the difference. And so I often think about these organizations, if you don't have a good sales system in place or good structure in place for a talented salesperson, they're probably not going to excel, and they're probably going to get burnt out after a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head at the last point there of burnout. Like, we're talking about really high performing people who have, whether it's entrepreneurial aspirations or account executive, VP of sales, CRO, whatever it is. And, they're not going to want to be in an environment like that for too long either. And so I think, you want to set yourself up so that you're taking advantage and using that and harnessing that talent, not squandering it. And, it'll be hard to find someone else after that, in my opinion. So
right.
That's a great point.
100%. All right. So let's talk about best practice. Well, before I talk about that, I want to go back to your experience. You have a very diverse history of experience.
Yeah.
I have the same thing. Like, I've been a lot of places, done a lot of different things. How do you feel like that has helped you now where you're at in terms of being successful with the companies that you're working at, maybe understanding people? Just how do you feel like that experience has really benefited you now looking back?
I mean, I look back on, I would not be doing what I'm doing today if I hadn't had the 3 experiences I had before. So I worked at 3 different companies. So I graduated college in 2019. So I'm 5 years out now.
So young. Jeez.
I spent 2.5 years. I spent 2.5 years at an investment bank, as I said. Then I went and became an SDR at a 16-person startup. And then I went and, ran sales at a 2-person startup. And each of those experiences just taught me something different. First off, I think the biggest thing is the scariest move out of those 3 that I described was the move from the investment bank to the first startup. And, because you're in a position where you're making good money, there's a really clear-cut path to it, within, what the next stage is, and what it takes to get there. Right. And so that was the hardest one, because it was just, there are so many reasons not to leave. And then once I did that, I started to realize, I think it's like anything else. Like, you have to build the muscle of being comfortable making those sorts of moves. And I really think early on in a career, making moves like that is it's so important, because, again, I always I use the sports analogies a ton, but I think I go back to, like, I ended up rowing in college. I was a Division I rower, but I played a bunch of sports before I did that. I tried a bunch of things out. I tried to figure out what I was good at. I learned what I liked, what I didn't like. And I think the same thing applies to a career. So the first thing that I take away from the experiences I've had is just the fact that is the ability to have multiple experiences and not be afraid to search new things out, and, not feel like the next opportunity needs to be the perfect one, but, like, figure out what I want to get out of it. So that's the first thing. And then I think, each one, again, taught me something unique. I think as I look at the SDR one, that taught me, sales, right? That was just a hard skill. It taught me, how do you pick up the phone and call someone? How do you get rejected and knocked down? How do you just, how do you learn? How do you push forward as you fail 95% of the time, right? So how do you keep pushing in an environment like that and have the mental fortitude to do that and keep having confidence in yourself? And so I just learned how to sell there. I think that was such a valuable skill. And then in the second business, I learned how to be an operator. The guy who was the lead investor in the business, started a very prominent software company, and he just, his operational expertise just trickled down into the organization in such an incredible way. I learned so much about how to actually build a business from him, as the CEO of that company, that it was just, so that was really what I took away from that. And I think now, like, I would not be able to build a business had I not had those experiences. It just, I think, showed me, it taught me how to sell, how to build top of funnel, how to succeed amongst a ton of failure. And then it taught me how to actually build a company and how to operate and structure an organization. So that's really what I took away from this.
Yeah, no, those experiences are huge. Do you ever do door-to-door sales?
No, that's the one thing missing on my sales resume now. I live in a big apartment building in New York now, and sometimes it crosses my mind that maybe I should just go notch that one, because a lot of people I know and respect have started in door-to-door, and I think that's
cold calling. As an SDR doing cold calling, it's not that much different, I don't think, but it's definitely kind of a badge of honor. And I know that
Totally.
most successful salespeople, a lot of them did some sort of door-to-door, because man, like that's like rejection on the phone is hard, no doubt. Rejection face-to-face, dude, that's a whole nother level.
That's next level. Yeah, no, I know. It's how Howard Schultz got his start. Just working for Xerox, selling face-to-face here, going up into these high rises.
I mean, just most of these guys did. I remember I started my sales career in door-to-door, and man, talk about a shock to the system. I came from being a high school teacher. If you're a teacher and you love kids, you're the hero. Like it's just not like everybody loves you. But if you go from that to sales where people are like, get the hell out of here, like that's a big difference from what I was doing before. That's for sure. All right, so let's talk about like SDRs and best practices. When you think about, like, if you had a blank slate and you could set up somebody's SDR program, what's like the first 3, 4, 5 things that you're focusing on that you're having somebody do?
Yeah, I mean, so I'd separate that out into, like, you have kind of the profile of the person you're working with, and then you actually have the systems that you're putting in place. As far as the best ones that I've seen, when it comes to having a system in place, you want to know, you want to have clearly laid out who's the ICP, right? Who are you reaching out to? I think that's a pretty straightforward one. Within that, you want to have an understanding. You want to be able to understand, like, what they care about, who they're talking to, who their boss is, why they're going to, care about talking to you, and all that sort of stuff, what the problems they're trying to solve are, all of those sorts of things, right? I think those are table stakes. The biggest things that I see helping people are, they're very consistent about, giving feedback and listening and giving feedback and iterating and understanding, like, okay, like, this is what worked on these calls. This is what, didn't work. Like, a company we just did a placement for a month or two ago. They actually sell software to cattle feed yards. It's a fantastic business. They've been doing they're really growing it. But the founder has just been so deliberate about when we paired the rep, we paired him with him part-time to begin with. He was hired out. He works there full-time now. But the founder did an incredible job of sitting down with the rep on a weekly, if not daily basis, and talking through it, listening to his calls and reading through the write-ups that the rep was giving every day, and just parsing through, like, okay, what does this information mean? And I think that's such a good practice internally, is, you have this rep who's going out there collecting a lot of information, asking questions, but at the end of the day, like, the founder still remains the person who has the most information in their head about the market and the product and all of that stuff, right? And so I think it's really important to maintain that collaborative environment between the two, because you're able to give, as a founder, and you're talking to customers all day, or you're talking to your product team all day, you're able to get a perspective that is probably a little bit unique to what the reps, getting from talking to prospects all day. So that was the first thing that I've seen. And so that, to boil that down, that is just having recurring meetings where the point is to go over, listen to the calls and give feedback on the calls. And Again, that doesn't just have to be from, oh, I think you should have used this intro, or I think you should have used, this, call to action or whatever. It could, it's let's talk about how it fits into the product. And I think that leads me to the next point, which is product knowledge is super, super important, right? It's so essential for these reps to understand what the product does, who they're selling. We talked about who they're selling to, but I think, again, there's a company we're working with right now. We just paired their second and third rep with them. So they're growing quickly, doing a great job. And the CEO, again, is so good about just taking ownership and initiative of training the reps on the product before anything else. These guys are they're super fired up about getting on the phone. And I think that's awesome. It's what you want, but you have the rest of the year to be on the phone, right? And I think you just need to nail that foundation of, hey, here's what the product really does. Here's what it solves. And you need the rep bought in on that too, because we've probably all sold things that maybe we don't believe in necessarily. And, you can tell, right? When you're talking about something or you're selling something or whatever it might be, right? If you're not into it, it's going to come out one way or the other, and you're just not going to have the passion or the drive to do it, consistently. And so I think those are two things. It's just, and maybe the last piece that I'd add here in the system is the buy-in from whoever the senior leadership is, right? Like that sort of underlies everything I've talked about to this point, which is just having that founder, head of sales, VP of sales be super dialed in on the outbound process, and not like, hey, I'm just dropping this on someone else's plate. You have outbound experience. I'm getting back to the product, but seeing like, hey, this is my business, right? Like, great. You can go build a product. That's awesome. You can go get money. That's great too. But at the end of the day, if you're not getting customers, then none of that other stuff matters, right? And so that being bought into and having that, like we used to help with a bunch of the onboarding. And recently we've been working with founders and companies where I don't even get on the first onboarding call because they're like, I got it. Let me take it from here. And I'm like, and honestly, when that happens, I'm like, I know this is going to be a strong engagement. Work. Like this is going to be really good because they have a vision, they're bought in, and they know that it takes their involvement too. They're not like, hey, this is a quick solve, right? This is something I need to invest my time into. So anyways, that's a long answer for you, but hopefully.
No, those are great answers. I'm going to dig into some of those real quick. And then I got another question for you before we have a little fun. But you talked about training. My first professional sales job, I didn't get to get on the phones for a month.
Yeah.
They trained me on their CRM, their processes, transferring a call, obviously the sales process, how to talk, how to answer objections, role playing. Like it was a month before I got to get on the phone. But what was amazing was when I got on the phone, I felt like I knew everything. Like I felt like I'd been there before. And so I was able to ramp up really fast. And so even though they invested in me for a month with nothing in return, it paid dividends because the next 11 months I killed it. It was great. It was really fun. And so training is really important. I absolutely love that. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is technology. So from a sales perspective, I know people will use Gong, for example, and some other tools that are out there. Do you use any of those tools? Do you recommend any of those tools? What do you feel like is the best way to really accelerate the training process?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think anything like any call recording tool that you have, like Gong, it could just be like Zoom cloud recordings, whatever it is. I think that stuff is really important to have. As long you need to be recording that stuff somewhere. And from a tech stack perspective, I think having HubSpot in place is sufficient. Often, I think most organizations as they get mature will probably end up transitioning to Salesforce at some point. But I think HubSpot is very easy to set up. They have a great discount for startups. I have no affiliation there, but it's just I really think
we're not getting paid for this promo for HubSpot.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not getting paid for this promo, but they have like 90% off or something the first year for startups, and it's just such a great deal, and that gives like prettle much all of their packages.
Just so rope them in, I know. And then
exactly. It's brilliant, honestly, but it works. Apollo, I think, is fine for enrichment and making phone calls. Like everyone has kind of their own opinions on these tools, but I have found that Smart Lead is really good for setting up domains and doing email warm up and that kind of stuff. So those are the tools. Yeah. So those are some of the tools that I've been around and heard, but again, that's not to say like some industries there are better enrichment tools, right? But those are the ones that, I think you can make calls out of HubSpot. You can get a power dialer if you need like Kixie or Orem or something like that. Those are really good.
I've never been an organization that used Gong, but I've heard a couple of friends that I trust say that Gong has really been a game changer for them in terms of coaching and finding like trouble spots or, mood, tone, all those different variances, it's pretty impressive that AI can do that kind of stuff. The technology can find that stuff, but having those just simply accelerates. It's a little bit of an investment, but again, I think if you build things right, this is what I learned from my time. You build things the right way, you train the right way, it pays off down the road. And that's really awesome. All right. We got to have a little bit of fun here. Oh, no, wait, one more question.
Yeah.
I said one more question. That is, what is your best advice for a sales rep on how to stand out in a good way? How to stand out as a sales rep? What are some of your best tips and tricks? Anything that has worked for you or that you would recommend?
That's a very good question. First off, I mean, the obvious, right, is make sure you hit your number, right? Go above and beyond to hit your number, right? That's number one before anything else. Because if you're not doing that, none of the other stuff matters. That's what people will go back to.
How about on a sales call, like when you're talking to a prospect, like how to stand out with that? Like how do you make it memorable in that regard?
Yeah. I mean,
clearly just be the best performer. That's the way to stand out.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think in an organization. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's be conversational, right? Like, I think that there's this really big disparity between, like, when I started, I listened to some of the calls I would start, right? And I might have a call with one of my buddies, right? Right before I make a cold call. And if you listen to those two call recordings, you'd be like, who are these two different guys making calls, right? You'd have me talking to one of my friends, or even someone in my, one of the friends that I work with, and then he'd have me on the phone sounding all robotic and, hey, how are you doing today? Do you have a moment to talk? People respond to you're setting the tone of that call. So if you come into that call and you don't sound natural, you don't sound organic, you're going to turn somebody off pretty quickly from talking to you. And again, remember, most of these calls, your job is just to get in the door. Your job is just to let them give you 30 seconds to talk to them. And so I think the most important thing you can do initially is just sound natural, organic. Everyone has their own way of doing that, but I think that's super overlooked. Like if you're like, hey, do you have a moment to speak? It's just going to be, it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound like a telemarketing call and they're going to get off. So, I think that's the first one. And then the second is, lead with curiosity. I think this is also a really important thing where, like, again, you're going to have a script, you're going to have something that, and this is probably something I've gotten better at as I've actually run my own company, where, before it was like, stick to the script, read the things, understand, and I wasn't making as much of an effort, and I was just driving towards the demo, right? The goal was book the demo, follow the steps. And I think what I've gotten a lot better at, and what I would say to reps to stand out, is lead with genuine curiosity, right? Go into the call really, from a point of, I want to actually figure out what this person does, what they need, what they care about, and see if there's a potential fit for us. And if you lead with that curiosity, again, I think that feeds back into what I was talking about, where I think it comes off more natural and organic, and people can sense that. It doesn't feel like you're not just waiting for them to finish talking so you can jump in with your next line. You're actually like listening. You're not listening to respond. Right? You're listening to understand. I think that's like kind of
it's a Stephen Covey thing. I'm pretty sure one of the,
but I think it actually makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of the 7 habits of highly successful people is listen to understand, or seek to understand before being understood, kind of thing. But but no, I think you're right about that. I mean, the art of asking good questions is one that I think people struggle with for sure. And I like this idea too: is be honest about why you're there. Some people are like, "Is this a sales call?" "Oh no, this isn't a sales call. I'm just yeah, this is a sales call. I'm here to sell you something." Like that actually makes people laugh a little bit. Like, oh, okay, this guy is just being honest and straightforward, and always answer a question with the truth, even if you don't know the answer, that kind of stuff. It's weird that those things actually stand out, but it does. Like it is a sales call. I'm here to sell you something.
100%. No, it totally does. And I think that the other thing is just like, there's no magic bullet. Like something that works on one call could just totally bomb on another, right? And you could do the same thing on 2 calls, and one person tells you to F off and the other person, you book a meeting with. And I think that's the key to this thing, is like, don't try to crack the code. Just realize that, like, you just got to keep going out there trying to do it. And, you'll get a little better every time, and learn how to, match the person's cadence that you're talking to, match their attitude.
Yes, mirroring
stuff, mirroring I think is
really important.
Yeah. So anyways.
I will say this, not every customer says yes for the same reason, but many of them will say no for the same reason. And it's usually because you're doing something wrong. Like
That's
if
good.
everybody says the same reason for no, it's like, wait a minute, what am I saying that's triggering that response? So
100%.
it is good to learn about that, which is great. All right, let's have a little fun, Andrew. We like to have a random question of the day every day.
Yeah.
And this is something our producer puts together. It could be funny. It could be serious. It could be good. It could be not good. I don't know. It could be a couple things. So let's see what today's random question day is. Here we go.
Amazing.
Today's random question today is, if you could spend a day talking to an animal, what animal would you choose and what would you want to learn from them?
Wow.
That is random.
That's a great question though. Let me I got to think about this for a second. It's You know, I'm kind of thinking about what I'm most like, what my mind immediately goes to is I want to either something that flies or something that's in the water, because I don't understand either of those things. And I want to know a little bit more about what goes on. Like I think it's got to be like a bird in the rainforest. I don't have a specific bird for you, but
Dude, I was thinking eagle. My first thought was eagle. Like, just to soar. Yeah.
I just think, I think it's got to be some type of a bird in the rainforest. Just like, what is that like? It's got to be so, that's got to be crazy. Like, what can they see? What are they looking out for? Like, I think they just have to have, So that's a really good question. You know what's going to happen is I'm going to get off of this and I'm going to think of something totally different. I should have said that.
I mean, you could go with lion and wonder what it's like to be the king of the jungle, to be kind of like, just kind of known for like the predator among all predators,
I feel like I've spent enough time with lions now. So
that's true. You know enough about them.
I don't know if I need another day with lions.
All right, Andrew, before we get off here today, how could people learn more about top SDRs and connect?
Yeah, I'm all over LinkedIn. That's definitely where I'm at. So just Andrew Wilkins on LinkedIn. You can go to our website, topsdrs.com. And feel free to reach out anytime.
Awesome, Andrew. Hey, thanks for being on the show. We got to give you a little bit of walkout music on the way out, but thanks so much for coming by and being a part of Standing Out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a ton of fun, Trey. Really appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Make sure you come back every Tuesday for an episode of Standing Out, just like this. A great guest like Andrew. And remember, check out our friends over at Sales-CRM, especially if you are needing a CRM. If you're using spreadsheets, listen, first of all, if you're using spreadsheets, stop. Go to Sales-CRM, talk to my buddy Josh, and get started with that. Also, don't forget to sign up for the Broker Carrier Summit, October 23 through 25, down in Fort Worth, Texas. Can't wait to see you guys there. And until next time, friends, remember, stop standing still, start standing out. We'll see you soon.